Well, joining me in studio now to discuss this further is Mr. Adil Nchabeleng, Transform RSA President. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us here on ANN7. You had the opportunity to listen through the media briefing. Just give us your account and what you thought was pertinent during that briefing.
The media briefing was quite excellent, and actually we welcome from Transform RSA's point of view the attempt taken by SARS to clear out the matter, because when the particular report was withdrawn by KPMG, it actually cast particular aspersions to say that KPMG has withdrawn a particular report which related to the forensic report which they did against a spy unit which existed within SARS. Now that SARS has come out clear and has given a very clear sort of identification as to what was the entire work done by KPMG, and it has clarified the issues relating to one, particularly the spy unit that existed within SARS, as to what was happening within it and what is going to be done. So we're quite actually relieved from Transform RSA's point of view to know that finally we have an institution of government that is decisive, that is very clear about taking steps to address issues as they arise in the public. Remember that this particular KPMG report and withdrawal of its own forensic work indicates that we have a situation whereby in South Africa we have legal firms, we have auditors firms, we have forensic firms, we have financial institution firms that have continuously been engaged in fraudulent, dubious and unethical reporting as well as providing of services in an unethical manner. And now that one of the big top firms, which is an auditing and forensic firm and an accounting firm, has come out clearly recusing itself of its own particular report, it tells you the depth of the rot. It is SARS now's prerogative to take on the work forward and actually chart us the way forward in terms of what steps should be taken further. They've already indicated very clearly, nicely, that one, they are going to be laying criminal charges against KPMG. We're not just talking, the civil charges. We're talking about criminal charges that must be laid against the directors of KPMG. That must be laid against the team and the particular individuals that worked on drafting the particular report that they withdrew. Secondly is the aspect of the monies that was paid by SARS towards KPMG, the recovery of that financial spend, which in this case shows clearly that they actually spent on something that they didn't derive value of. It was work provided, but work not guaranteed, and work which actually was withdrawn at the end of the day. So how do you charge government? How do you charge taxpayers money and take out of the taxpayers' purse an income which you didn't derive any work or value for? So this is something that at an ethical and a corporate level, corporate citizenry level, that we must now start interrogating very clearly. If they are withdrawing a report, they should be then repaying the amount of monies. Not only that, what about all the contracts that they've been enjoying from government for all the years? That money must be repaid back. So we're looking at an institution that within a year's time has to be clear. It has to either fold up and actually relieve itself out of the South African market, because it has disgraced its own capacity as an institution, as a firm which specializes in auditing and forensic work, because this is something that we take very seriously. You know it when a report comes out of a forensic or an accounting environment, nobody ever questions it. Today, we are given by the same people who draft these reports and forensic as well as accounting reports, telling us that their own reports are questionable. What was the motive behind the whole thing? This is something that is interesting to look at.
And it also brings into question then the credibility around KPMG itself. It has now retracted certain parts of this report. What about reports that have been brought forward in the past? There's also been a request that SARS wants KPMG to be reviewed. Do you agree with this process?
All the reports that KPMG has given in the past to the state, not only to SARS, by the way, to the state, must then be placed on a review process, must actually be reviewed, must actually be investigated thoroughly, and must be given credence, whether it was the due reports or whether it was valid or whether they just did again an unethical job as they did with this particular report in this case. The motivation behind giving a report of this nature and in the midst of it withdrawing it is highly questionable, because remember here we're talking about there's about 60 to 80 firms that has been hitting hard on KPMG in terms of withdrawing their particular business against KPMG. So was KPMG actually compelled by companies in South Africa, whom we classify very clearly as white monopoly capital companies, that has actually been pushing for KPMG to recuse itself so that they can actually play a role in positioning the particular candidate, which in this case has been Pravin Gordhan, that they've been protecting, and making sure that they can actually have a clean slate start off for Pravin Gordhan.
Why
to
are
come
you of
into
the view that
picture.
there's been protection of the former Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan?
Because the report only talks about one unit. It talks about the spy unit that indicted particularly Pravin Gordhan. So what must people actually conclude to say? Was the report regarding the unethical work that they provided with regards to all other reports that were given? No. It was just dealing with one particular matter to say that they are accusing themselves out of the report that they provided, that particularly at that point indicted the former Minister of Finance, who is Pravin Gordhan. What is the intention behind the removal of that particular report and withdrawal particularly? One, we can assume at this stage that it was an attempt to make sure that there can be a recovery of goodwill as well as good intention in terms of how people perceive Pravin Gordhan as a particular minister, and removing that whole spy unit, particular rogue unit, misdemeanor kind of environment where they wanted to clean it up. And it didn't really succeed as such, because in this case, SARS has come back responding to the entire withdrawal of KPMG and saying that within that withdrawal, they don't actually endorse it because they say that they paid for a work done. And as a result, the report belongs no longer to KPMG, now belongs to SARS. And SARS has the right, by the way, to take that report further. Whatever they withdraw themselves out of is immaterial and inconsequential. And as a result, from an ethical as well as a professional point of view, KPMG has to be held reliable and responsible. From a criminal point of view, cases of criminal, injuria should actually be brought up against, particularly KPMG and its directors, for having caused unnecessary damage. One, again, for reporting falsely out of an oath that they have taken, which is the oath of their own profession and practice. So those directors are not going to go away scot-free. We demand that they must be arrested, and a clear example must be set. The investigation is clear that they made an act which was erroneous in this case, and an unethical and immoral act of making sure that they can misinform through reporting. So what is the criminal procedure to be taken? Is to make sure that they get arrested and they are put away. And then the matter can be then put forward before a court, and it can be decided in terms of their action. Secondly, coming to SARS, we want to see now SARS taking decisive actions going forward. What are they going to do with the remaining particular financial, auditing, accounting, and forensic institutions that probably are linked to the same kind of falsified reporting within the government space and within the state space? What is the actions that's going to be taken? We've been saying for too long that black firms never get the opportunity to become regarded as strong players. Now it's an opportunity. Now that the top big 5 firms that have been occupying the entire 80% of the forensic auditing as well as accounting space have now been challenged and has been put under the floodlight, it is an opportunity for emerging practitioners as well as auditing and auditors, firms and forensic practitioners to come up and provide an alternative in this environment. You know, this was a firm. It does not mean the entire profession is toxic.
Definitely. Well, we do know that SARS is planning to take those legal steps and legal actions against KPMG, as you have mentioned. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here this afternoon and chatting to us. That was the president of Transform RSA, Mr. Adil Nchabeleng, just joining us in studio to discuss what we saw happen during that press briefing about an hour and a half ago, where SARS was reacting to KPMG retracting parts of that SARS rogue unit report. But stay tuned to ANN7 for further details, developments and discussions in this regard.